The stars looked different from the bridge of the UES horizon. Captain Jake Morrison stood at the wide window, watching the endless darkness of space. His ship was small compared to the military vessels back on Earth, but it was fast and built for exploration. This was humanity's first real journey into deep space, beyond their own solar system. "Captain, we're getting something strange on the sensors," said Lisa Grant from the pilot's seat. Her voice carried a mix of excitement and worry. Lisa had been flying ships for 10 years, but nothing had prepared her for this mission. Jake walked over to look at the display screen. The numbers and lines meant nothing to him, but Lisa's face told him everything. Something big was out there. "How big?" Jake asked. "Bigger than anything we've ever built," Lisa replied. "It's at least 5 times the size of our largest space station. And Captain, it's moving toward us." Bobby Chun looked up from his engineering station. His hands moved quickly over the controls, checking the ship's systems. "All systems are running normal, Captain. But whatever that thing is, it's giving off energy readings I've never seen before." Amy Rodriguez sat at the communications desk, her headphones covering her ears. She had been trying to pick up radio signals from other worlds for months. Now she was hearing something that made her hands shake. "Captain, I'm getting signals from that ship," Amy said. "It's not like our radio waves. It's something else. Something that feels like it's trying to get inside my head." Jake felt a cold feeling in his stomach. First contact with alien life had always been a possibility on this mission. But now that it was happening, he realized how unprepared they really were. "Red alert," Jake ordered. "All hands to stations." "Lisa, can we run if we need to?" "Yes, sir, but that ship is fast. If it wants to catch us, it probably can." The alien vessel appeared on their main screen. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. The ship looked like it was made of silver and light, with smooth curves that seemed to flow like water. No human ship had ever looked like this. "Captain, they're trying to communicate," Amy reported. "The signals are getting stronger. It's like they're knocking on a door inside my brain." Jake made a decision that would change everything for humanity. "Open the channel. Let's talk to them." The main screen flickered and changed. A tall, thin figure appeared before them. The alien looked almost human, but its skin was pale blue, and its eyes were large and silver. When it spoke, the words appeared directly in their minds, rather than through their ears. "Greetings, unknown beings. I am High Counselor Velfara of the Etherian Collective. We welcome you to this region of space. Do not fear us. We come in peace." Jake stepped forward. "I'm Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earthship Horizon. We're explorers from the planet Earth. We're also here in peace." Velfara's large eyes seemed to study each human on the bridge. "You are new to the stars. This is good. We will help you understand the ways of the galaxy. But first, we must know your minds. This is our way of ensuring peace between our peoples." "What do you mean by knowing our minds?" Jake asked. "We will join thoughts with you. We will see your intentions, and you will see ours. This is how all civilized species meet for the first time. It prevents misunderstandings and war." Amy grabbed her head suddenly. "Captain, the signals are getting much stronger. It feels like something is trying to push into my thoughts." Bobby's instruments started flashing warning lights. "Captain, they're doing something to our ship's computer systems. It's like they're trying to read our memory banks." Jake felt something strange happening in his own mind. It was like someone was trying to open a locked door in his head. But instead of fear, he felt anger. No one had the right to enter his thoughts without permission. "Stop," Jake said firmly. "You don't have permission to enter our minds." Velfara looked surprised. "Permission? We do not understand. All species submit to the mind joining. It is necessary for first contact." Not humans, Jake replied. He could feel the alien presence pushing harder against his thoughts, but something inside him pushed back just as hard. Our minds are our own, Lisa suddenly cried out in pain. The alien probe was trying to force its way into her thoughts, but her mind was fighting back. Bobby and Amy were experiencing the same thing. Each human was unconsciously resisting the mental invasion. Velthara's calm expression changed to one of shock and fear. This is impossible. No species can resist the mind joining. Your thoughts are chaos. We cannot read them clearly. Jake felt the alien presence retreat from his mind, but he could tell it was still trying to understand what had happened. Maybe that's because we're not like other species. Your minds are like storms, Velthara said, her mental voice filled with confusion. They change and shift in ways we have never encountered. One moment we see one thought, the next moment it becomes something completely different. That's because we're individuals, Jake explained. Each of us thinks differently. We don't share one mind like you seem to do. Individuals? Velthara repeated the word like she had never heard it before. But how do you function as a group? How do you make decisions? We talk to each other. We argue. We vote. Sometimes we disagree and do different things. The alien's large eyes grew even wider. You make decisions without knowing what others think. You act without perfect coordination. This is madness. Maybe, Jake said with a small smile, but it's our madness. Velthara stepped back from the communication screen. We must report this to the Galactic Council immediately. Your species is unlike anything we have encountered in 10,000 years of space travel. Is that a problem? Jake asked. We do not know, Velthara admitted. Species that cannot be read, cannot be predicted, cannot be controlled? They are dangerous to the order of the galaxy. We don't want to be dangerous. We just want to explore and learn. Perhaps. But your very existence changes everything. The Council must decide what to do about humanity. The communication ended abruptly. The alien ship began to move away from the horizon, but Jake could see smaller vessels launching from it. They were probably scouts sent to watch and report on human activities. Captain, what just happened? Lisa asked. Her hands were still shaking from the mental contact. I think we just scared them, Jake replied. They tried to read our minds and couldn't do it. But why couldn't they? Bobby asked. Their technology is obviously more advanced than ours. Jake looked out at the stars again. Maybe because being human means being unpredictable. And maybe that's exactly what makes us dangerous to them. As the horizon continued its journey through space, none of the crew realized that their first contact had just sent shockwaves throughout the galaxy. In council chambers and war rooms across dozens of worlds, alien leaders were asking the same question. What do you do with a species that cannot be controlled? The answer would determine the fate of both humanity and the galaxy itself. Dr. Kethmos sat in his laboratory on the Galactic Council's main research station. His forearms moved across different control panels, while his large head studied the data from the human encounter. As the galaxy's top expert on alien minds, he had been asked to figure out what made humans so different. The video recordings from high, Counselor Velthara's ship played on multiple screens around him. Dr. Kethmos watched the human reactions over and over again. Each time he saw something new that troubled him. Computer, analyze human brain patterns during mental contact attempt, he said. Analysis complete, the computer replied. Human neural activity shows no recognizable patterns. Brain waves change constantly without logical sequence. Mental barriers appear and disappear at random intervals. Dr. Kethmos made notes on his electronic pad. In his 50 years of studying alien species, he had never seen anything like this. Every other race in the galaxy had predictable thought, patterns, The Etherians shared group consciousness. The Vorthic followed strict logical sequences. Even the emotional Zephyrians had clear patterns to their feelings, but humans were different. Their minds seemed to work in chaos. "Sir, we have new data coming in," said his assistant, a young Etherian named Kirara. "Another human ship has made contact with the Kronak Empire." Dr. Kethmos looked up from his work. The Kronak were known throughout the galaxy as fierce warriors. They respected strength and followed ancient codes of honor in battle. Most species either avoided them or submitted to their demands. "Show me the report," he said. The main screen displayed a battle report. From the edge of Kronak space, a human mining ship called the Titan had been captured while searching for rare metals in an asteroid field. The Kronak had taken the ship and its crew, expecting either ransom payments or easy slaves. But then something unexpected happened. Commander Steve Parker had arrived with a small rescue ship. His team included only 4 people: Dr. Karen Walsh, Danny Lee, Helen Brooks, and Steve himself. Against a Kronak battle station with over 200 warriors, the odds were impossible. "Computer, play the battle recording." Dr. Kethmos ordered. The screen showed Steve's ship approaching the Kronak station. Instead of following normal military tactics, the humans did something that made no sense. They split up. Steve sent Helen in an escape pod toward the station's blind spot, while Danny created a distraction on the opposite side. Dr. Karen used the ship's medical scanners to map the station's internal structure, finding weaknesses that shouldn't have existed. "This is madness," Dr. Kethmos said to himself. "They're attacking a fortified position with no coordination, no unified plan." But as he watched, the chaos began to work. Helen's pod attached to the station's hull where the sensors couldn't detect it. Danny's distraction drew the Kronak warriors to the wrong side of the station. Karen guided Steve through weak points in the station's structure. The Kronak commander, War Master Thokrin, tried to respond to the attack, but every time he moved his forces to counter one human, another human would do something completely different. The Kronak's honor-based tactics, perfected over thousands of years of warfare, became useless. How are they communicating? Dr. Kethmos wondered. The humans weren't using radio signals that could be intercepted. They seemed to know what each other would do without talking. Steve reached the captured miners and began freeing them. But instead of retreating immediately, he did something that shocked the watching Kronak. He stayed behind to make sure all the prisoners escaped safely, even though it meant certain capture for himself. Then he saw what was happening and made his own impossible choice. He flew his fighter directly into the station's main weapon, destroying it, but also destroying his own ship. The explosion created enough confusion for Steve and the miners to escape. War Master Thokrin later reported to his superiors, "The humans fight without honor, without logic, without fear of death. They cannot be predicted or countered. I recommend avoiding all contact with their species." Dr. Kethmos replayed the battle 3 more times. Each viewing revealed new details that disturbed him. The humans had won not through superior technology or numbers, but through something the galaxy had never seen before. "Kirara, bring me all data on human emotional responses," he ordered. His assistant's mental voice carried confusion. "Sir, emotions are considered weakness by most species. Why would you study them?" "Because I think human emotions might be their greatest weapon." For the next several hours, Dr. Kethmos studied everything about human feelings. He learned about love, friendship, loyalty, and sacrifice. These concepts existed in other species, but not with the same intensity. When a Vorthic soldier died in battle, his comrades felt loss, but continued following logical orders. When an Etherian was injured, the group mind simply adapted around the damage. But when humans saw their friends in danger, they became unpredictable. Computer, analyze the correlation between human emotional states and tactical effectiveness. Analysis shows that human performance increases by 340% when protecting. Others compared to fighting for personal gain. This violates all known behavioral models. Dr. Kethmos felt a chill run through his scaled body. Most species became weaker when emotional. Fear made them run away. Anger made them make mistakes. But humans became stronger and more dangerous. When they felt strongly about something, a communication signal interrupted his research. The image of High Admiral Zektar appeared on his screen. The Vorthic military leader looked worried. Dr. Kethmos, we need your report on the humans immediately. 3 more incidents have occurred. What kind of incidents? Human traders have been making deals that make no economic sense. They're trading valuable resources for things like art, music, and stories. Our economists cannot understand their behavior. Dr. Kethmos nodded. This fit with his growing understanding of humans. They don't just think with their minds, Admiral. They think with their hearts as well. That makes no sense. Exactly. And that's what makes them dangerous. We've built our civilization on logic, on predictable behavior. But humans don't follow our rules. High Admiral Ziktar's image flickered. With frustration. Can they be controlled? Can we predict their actions? Dr. Kethmos looked at all the data surrounding him. Video recordings of human faces showing dozens of different emotions. Brain scans that looked like static compared to other species. Battle reports that read like fantasy stories rather than military analysis. I don't think so, Admiral. Every time we think we understand them, they do something completely different. They're not just unpredictable. They're impossibly unpredictable. Then what do you recommend? Dr. Kethmos thought carefully before answering. I recommend we be very careful around them. They're not aggressive by nature, but they're protective of what they care about. And they seem to care about everything. After the communication ended, Dr. Kethmos continued his research. But now he had a different purpose. He wasn't just trying to understand humans anymore. He was trying to figure out how the galaxy could survive their presence. Late that night, as he worked alone in his laboratory, Dr. Kethmos made a discovery that changed everything. Hidden in the human genetic code was something that shouldn't exist. Humans had evolved not just intelligence, but something called imagination. Other species could learn and adapt. But humans could imagine things that had never existed, and then make them real. They could look at a problem and see solutions that violated the laws of physics, logic, and common sense. Computer, send a priority message to the Galactic Council. He said, Ready for message, Dr. Kethmos. He thought carefully about his words. Humans represent a fundamental threat to galactic stability. Not because they are aggressive, but because they are creative. They will change everything they touch, including us. Recommend immediate establishment of buffer zones around human space. As he sent the message, Dr. Kethmos realized that the galaxy would never be the same. Humans had brought something new into their ordered universe, the possibility that anything could happen, and that possibility terrified every logical mind in the galaxy. The collective had made their decision. After studying the reports about humans, the hive mind concluded that these chaotic beings needed to be brought under control. The collective believed that once humans joined their shared consciousness, the galaxy's order would be restored. Queen Mind Nethys spoke through 1,000,000 voices across 1,000 worlds. The humans are like wild animals, she declared. They must be tamed for the good of all. We will show them the peace of unified thought. Colonel Mike Rodriguez stood on the command deck of New Denver's defense station. The human colony world was small and far from Earth, but it was home to 50,000 people. Mike had been assigned to protect them, and he took that job seriously. Colonel, or picking up massive energy signatures coming out of hyperspace, reported Lieutenant Emma Stone. She was young but smart, and Mike trusted her judgment completely. The main display screen lit up with dozens of red dots. Each dot represented a collective ship, and there were more appearing every second. Mike had read the files on the collective. They moved as one mind, fought as one army, and never retreated. "How many ships?" Mike asked. Emma's face went pale. "Over 300, sir. And they're launching smaller craft. Looks like invasion transports." Sergeant Chris Taylor looked up from his tactical station. "Sir, we've got 40 fighters and maybe 200 ground troops. Those odds are impossible." Mike knew Chris was right. In any normal battle, New Denver would fall within hours. But Mike had learned something from the reports of other human encounters with aliens. Normal tactics didn't work for humans. "Emma, send a message to all fighter pilots. Tell them to forget everything they learned in training. No formations, no coordinated attacks. Each pilot fights however they think is best." "Sir, that goes against all military doctrine," Emma replied. "Good. The collective expects us to follow doctrine. Let's disappoint them." The first wave of collective fighters approached New Denver with perfect precision. They flew in mathematical formations, each ship knowing exactly where every other ship would be at any moment. Their hive mind calculated attack patterns with flawless accuracy. Then they met the human defenders. Private First Class Tony Martinez was flying his fighter in loops and spirals that made no tactical sense. His movements were so random that the collective couldn't predict where he would be from one second to the next. When Tony fired his weapons, he aimed not where logic said he should, but where his instincts told him to shoot. The collective ships, flying in perfect formation, suddenly found themselves unable to dodge attacks they couldn't predict. Tony's chaotic flight pattern disrupted their careful formations and created openings that shouldn't have existed. "This is impossible," transmitted the collective fleet commander through the hive mind. "The humans' tactics make no logical sense, yet they are effective." Meanwhile, on the planet's surface, Chris Taylor was preparing the ground defenses. But instead of setting up traditional battle lines, he scattered his troops across the landscape in small groups. "Chris, what's the plan?" asked Corporal Nina Brooks over the radio. "There is no plan," Chris replied. "That's the plan. Each squad does whatever they think will work. Don't coordinate with anyone else. Just cause as much trouble as possible." The collective invasion transports landed in formation, just as their hive mind had calculated. They expected to face organized resistance that they could analyze and overcome. Instead, they found Chaos Squad Alpha attacked from the north but retreated. After 5 minutes, Squad Beta hit the collective's left flank and disappeared into the forest. Squad Charlie didn't attack at all, but instead started playing loud music that interfered with the collective's mental communications. The hive mind tried to adapt to each new tactic, but by the time it figured out what one human squad was doing, that squad had already changed its approach. The collective's perfect coordination became a weakness when facing opponents who had no coordination at all. Queen Mind. Nethys felt something she had never experienced before: confusion. Through the eyes of her warriors, she watched humans doing things that made no sense. They would retreat when they should attack when they should retreat, and sometimes just sit still and make noise. Analyze human behavior patterns. She commanded her tactical minds. Unable to complete analysis, came the response. Human actions show no consistent patterns. Each individual appears to be making independent decisions. Independent decisions? Nethys had heard this term in the reports, but she couldn't understand what it meant. In the collective, all decisions were made by the hive mind and shared instantly among all members. Back in space, Tony Martinez was having the time of his life. He had always been told he was too reckless to be a good pilot. Now his recklessness was winning the battle. He flew his fighter through a cloud of collective ships, firing in all directions and laughing over the radio. "This is Tony to all pilots," he transmitted. "Stop trying to be good soldiers and start being crazy humans." The message spread among the human fighters. Suddenly, the space around New Denver became filled with ships doing impossible things. One pilot flew backwards while shooting. Another kept spinning in circles. A third pilot turned off his engines and let momentum carry him through enemy formations. The collective's hive mind began to overload, trying to process all the random data. Their ships started to collide with each other as their perfect formations broke down. On the planet's surface, Chris Taylor made a discovery that changed everything. When he captured a collective soldier, he found that the being couldn't function without constant mental connection to the hive mind, cut off from the Ya. Group consciousness, the soldier just stood still, unable to make any decisions. "Emma, I've got an idea," Chris said over the radio. "What if we could confuse their hive mind so badly that it stops working?" Emma was coordinating the air battle from the command center. "How do we do that?" "By being so random that their mind breaks trying to figure us out." Chris started giving his squads orders that made no sense. He told Alpha Squad to build sandcastles on the beach. He ordered Beta Squad to start a barbecue in the middle of the battlefield. He had Charlie Squad perform an old Earth dance called the Chicken Dance. The collective warriors watched in horror as humans began doing things that had nothing to do with warfare. Some humans were fighting, others were cooking food, and still others were making art on the walls of buildings. Queen Mind Nethys felt her consciousness stretching to its limits. The hive mind worked by processing information and making logical decisions. But the humans were providing information that had no logic at all. Then something happened that had never occurred in the collective's 10,000-year history. Individual drones began making their own choices. A collective warrior on the planet's surface stopped following orders and started watching the humans make art. Another drone began listening to human music instead of fighting. A third drone started asking questions. Why do the humans sing during battle? What does this music mean? Impossible. Nethys screamed through a million voices. No drone can think independently. Return to the hive mind immediately. But the damage was spreading. As more collective drones observed human behavior, more of them began developing individual thoughts. The perfect unity of the hive mind started to crack. Mike Rodriguez watched the battle from his command center and realized they were winning, not through superior firepower or tactics, but by being themselves. The humans were so unpredictable that they had broken the enemy's ability to think clearly. "All units, keep doing whatever you're doing," Mike ordered. "It's working." Tony Martinez, still flying his impossible patterns through space, accidentally discovered something amazing. When he flew close to collective ships while thinking about pizza, the alien pilots began thinking about food too. Somehow, human thoughts were contagious. "Hey, Chris," Tony radioed to the ground. "I think our weirdness is spreading to them." Chris looked at a group of collective soldiers who had stopped fighting and were now standing in a circle, trying to understand why humans sang. "You're right, Tony. They're starting to act like individuals." Queen Mind Nethys felt her control slipping away. The hive mind was supposed to be perfect, unified, eternal. But contact with human chaos was causing her drones to develop something the collective had never known. Curiosity. In desperation, Nethys ordered a full retreat. "All ships, all troops, withdraw immediately. Do not engage the humans further." "But, Queen Mind," protested one of her commanders, "we have superior numbers. We can still win." The fact that a collective commander was questioning orders proved that the contamination was spreading. No, Nethys replied. The humans are not just defeating us in battle. They are changing us into something we are not meant to be. As the collective forces retreated from New Denver, they carried with them something that would change their society forever. Hundreds of drones had been exposed to human individuality, and they couldn't forget what they had experienced. Mike Rodriguez stood on the observation deck, watching the alien ships disappear into hyperspace. Well, that was different, he said. Emma Stone smiled. Sir, do you think they'll be back? Mike thought about the reports he would have to write, trying to explain how they had won a battle by being as random as possible. I don't think so, Emma. I think we scared them worse than TH. The ancient warning signals had not been activated for over 2,000 years. Across the galaxy, every major civilization received the same terrible message. The Devourers were awake. Prime Calculator. Nexus 9 stood in the emergency session of the Galactic Council. The artificial intelligence had been built specifically to solve impossible problems, and its mechanical voice carried notes of despair that chilled every organic being present. Analysis complete, Nexus 9 announced. The Devourers have awakened from their stasis in the galactic core. Based on historical data, we have approximately 67 days before they reach the Outer Rim worlds. High Admiral Ziktar of the Vorthic Empire asked a question everyone feared. What are our chances of victory? 0.003%, Nexus 9 replied. The Devourers learn from every encounter. Their technology adapts to counter any weapon used against them. 2,000 years ago, it took the combined fleets of 47 civilizations to barely force them into stasis. Ambassador Valfara of the Etherians sent a mental message to the Assembly. Then we are all doomed. The Devourers consume entire star systems. They turn living worlds into raw materials for their machines. In the human sector of space, Admiral Kate Johnson received the emergency transmission from the Galactic Council. She was the highest-ranking human officer, commanding a fleet of only 30 ships. Compared to the massive armadas of other species, humanity's contribution seemed almost pointless. Kate's staff gathered in the briefing room aboard the UES Liberty. Captain Ryan Murphy, her tactical officer, looked grim as he reviewed the Devourer files. Intelligence officer Sam Davis was studying every piece of data about the ancient enemy. Fleet engineer Lisa Chong was already working on modifications to their weapon systems. Ladies and gentlemen, Kate began, we've been invited to join the galactic defense against the Devourers. Every other species is contributing hundreds of ships. We have 30. 30 ships against machines that eat planets, Ryan said. This should be interesting. Sam looked up from her datapad. Admiral, I've been reading the historical records. The Devourers are machines, but they're not. Just programmed computers. They're artificial intelligences that learn and adapt. They've been studying galactic tactics for 2,000 years. What's their weakness? Kate asked. That's just it, Admiral. They don't seem to have any. Every weapon that worked against them before stops working once they analyze it. Every tactic that succeeded once fails the second time it's tried. Lisa Chong spoke up from the engineering station. Admiral, what if their strength is also their weakness? Explain. These machines are perfect learners. They analyze everything and adapt accordingly. But what if we gave them something they couldn't analyze? Kate understood immediately. Something random. Something that makes no sense. Exactly. If we can confuse their learning algorithms, maybe we can break them. Ryan leaned forward. How? Do we confuse a machine intelligence that's had 2,000 years to perfect itself? Kate smiled. By being human. The Devourers swept through the galaxy like a plague of metal and energy. Their ships were perfect geometric forms that seemed to absorb light itself. Each vessel was the size of a small moon, equipped with weapons. That could crack planets in half. The first line of defense consisted of the Chronok warrior fleets. War Master Grog Thiel led 200 battleships in a traditional formation attack. The Chronok fought with honor and courage, just as they had for centuries. The Devourers analyzed the attack pattern, adapted their shields to counter Chronok weapons, and destroyed the entire fleet in 17 minutes. Not a single Devourer ship was damaged. The second defense line was the collective's hive mind coordination. Queen Mind Nethys commanded 500 ships in perfect synchronization, executing complex battle maneuvers that had never been defeated. Devourers studied the hive mind's tactics, calculated the mathematical patterns, and eliminated the collective fleet in 23 minutes. They had learned from the Chronok encounter and become more efficient. The third line was the Etherian psychic assault. High Counselor Velthara led their mental warriors in an attempt to disrupt the Devourer's artificial consciousness. The machines analyzed psychic energy patterns, developed mental shields, and destroyed the Etherian fleet in 11 minutes. They were getting faster with each encounter. Prime Calculator Nexus 9 sent a message to all remaining forces. Retreat to the core worlds. Prepare for final defensive positions. The Devourers are adapting faster than projected. That's when Admiral Kate Johnson made her announcement. Human fleet moving to attack position. The response from Alien Command was immediate. Negative, Admiral Johnson. 30 ships cannot accomplish what our combined fleets could not. Retreat to safety. Kate switched off the communication and looked at her crew. Ryan, you ready to try something that makes no sense? Always, Admiral. Kate's plan was simple and completely insane. Instead of coordinating their attacks, each human ship would act independently. No formations, no unified strategy, no logical pattern. Each captain would make their own decisions based on instinct rather than tactics. All ships, this is Admiral Johnson, she broadcast to the human fleet. Forget everything you learned in military academy. Fight like humans, not like soldiers. Trust your gut, not your computers. Captain Mary Foster, commanding the UES Phoenix, was the first to engage the Devourers. Instead of attacking the massive ships head-on, she decided to play a game of tag. She flew her ship in circles around a Devourer vessel, occasionally firing at random spots on its hull. The Devourer tried to analyze Mary's attack pattern, but there wasn't one. She was literally making up her tactics as she went along, changing direction every few seconds based on whatever felt right at the moment. Captain Joe Miller, commanding the UES Ranger, took a completely different approach. He flew straight at a Devourer ship. Then at the last second, he turned around and flew away. Then he came back and did it again. And again, the Devourer's learning algorithms went into overdrive, trying to understand what Joe was doing. Was it some kind of feint? A distraction? A complex tactical maneuver? The machine intelligence devoted more and more processing power to analyzing Joe's seemingly random behavior. Sam Davis, now serving as intelligence coordinator for the fleet, made a crucial observation. Admiral, the Devourers are slowing down their responses. I think we're overloading their analytical systems. Kate realized they were onto something. All ships increase the randomness, do things that make absolutely no sense whatsoever. Captain Tom Brady, commanding the UES Eagle, started flying his ship backwards while shooting at targets behind him. Captain Linda Green, in the UE Sauk, began spinning her ship like a top while firing in all directions. Captain Steve Wilson, commanding the UES Falcon, decided to ram a Devourer ship at low speed, bounce off, and then apologize over the radio. Devourer's perfect artificial intelligence began to malfunction. Their learning algorithms were designed to find patterns, but the humans weren't following any patterns. Every human ship was doing something different, and those different things kept changing randomly. One Devourer ship stopped moving entirely. I locked in an infinite loop, trying to calculate the logic behind a human captain who was flying in figure-8 patterns while singing opera songs over the radio. Another Devourer began firing its weapons at empty space, its targeting systems confused by a human ship that kept changing direction based on what the captain had eaten for lunch. Kate watched the battle unfold with amazement. "Ryan, are we winning?" "I think so, Admiral. The Devourers are starting to attack each other. Their AI systems are so confused they can't tell friend from enemy." Lisa Chong reported from the engineering station. "Admiral, I'm reading massive power fluctuations from the Devourer ships. Their computer systems are overheating, trying to process our random actions." That's when Kate had her most brilliant and insane idea. "All ships, form up on my position. We're going to try something really stupid." "What's the plan, Admiral?" asked Captain Ryan. "We're going to ram them all at once, from different directions, but not really ram them. Just pretend to ram them, and then do something else entirely." "Admiral, that makes no sense," Ryan replied. "Perfect. That's exactly what we want." Kate's final plan was the most chaotic thing ever attempted in galactic warfare. All 30 human ships would approach the largest Devourer vessel from different angles, as if planning a coordinated ramming attack. But at the last second, each ship would do something completely different and unexpected. The Devourer's eye saw the human ships approaching and calculated a coordinated suicide attack. It prepared countermeasures for ramming tactics reinforced its hull and positioned itself to minimize damage from the collision. Then the humans reached the final approach distance. Captain Mary decided she didn't want to pretend to ram the ship anymore. Instead, she flew her vessel underneath the Devourer and started taking pictures of its hull with the ship's cameras. Captain Joe changed his mind and decided to land on the Devourer's surface. He set his ship down gently and started playing music at full volume through the external speakers. Captain Tom realized he was hungry, so he stopped his attack run and started heating up food in the ships. 5 years had passed since the Devourer crisis, and the galaxy had learned to live with a new reality. Humans were everywhere, and everywhere they went, things changed. Ambassador Patricia Williams walked through the halls of the new Galactic Council Station. The building itself showed human influence in ways that disturbed many alien delegates. Where once everything had been built in perfect geometric patterns, now there were curves, colors, and what humans called artistic touches. Patricia entered the main council chamber for the emergency session. Representatives from dozens of species had gathered to discuss what they officially called the human expansion issue, but privately referred to as the chaos problem. High Admiral Ziktar of the Vorthic Empire stood at the central podium. His military bearing remained perfect, but Patricia could see the stress in his posture. "Honored delegates, we must address the situation in Sector 779. The main display showed a star map with human colonies marked in blue. What had once been empty space was now dotted with human settlements, trading posts, and exploration stations. The humans have established 17 new colonies in the past year. Alone, Zektar continued. Each colony creates unpredictable changes in local space traffic, trade patterns, and political relationships. Ambassador Felcor of the Triangulum Confederacy raised one of his 3 arms. "Admiral, are the humans violating any treaties or laws?" "No," Zektar admitted. "Technically, they are operating within all established regulations. But their presence creates complications we cannot calculate." Patricia smiled. She had been expecting this conversation for months. "May I address the council, Admiral?" "The human ambassador is recognized." Patricia stood and activated her personal display. "Honorable delegates, I'd like to share some reports from our recent activities." Perhaps they will help explain why you find us so unpredictable. The first image showed a human agricultural colony on a barren world. This is New Texas, established 8 months ago. The planet was considered worthless by galactic standards. Too much gravity, wrong atmosphere, harsh weather. The next image showed the same world covered in green fields and blue lakes. This is New Texas today. Our colonists didn't change the planet to suit their needs. They changed their needs to suit the planet. They developed new crops, new building techniques, new ways of living. Murmurs rippled through the council chamber. The concept of adapting to environment rather than controlling it was foreign to most galactic civilizations. The second example is our trading post at Kepler Station, Patricia continued. The display showed a busy space station with ships from dozens of different species. We were told that Kepler was strategically worthless because it's located between 3 hostile territories. But humans turned it into the busiest trading hub in that sector, added Ambassador Valthara of the Etherians. Her mental voice carried confusion. You somehow convinced 3 enemy species to trade with each other. We didn't convince them, Patricia explained. We just provided a neutral place where they could meet. And we served good food. The statement caused an uproar among the alien delegates. The idea that food could influence interstellar politics was absurd to most species. Dr. Kethmos, now serving as the Council's chief advisor on human affairs, activated his communication link. Ambassador Williams, could you explain the incident at the Spiral Nebula Research Station? Patricia's smile grew wider. Certainly. Our scientists were invited to join a multi-species research project studying nebula formation. The other species had been working on the project for 15 years with limited results. The display showed a collection of alien scientists working in perfect laboratory conditions, following established research protocols. Our team arrived and immediately broke every research rule in the book, Patricia continued. Dr. Frank Johnson decided to fly a ship directly into the nebula. Dr. Susan Lee started collecting gas samples with equipment designed for mining asteroids. Dr. Bob Garcia began mapping the nebula by drawing pictures instead of using mathematical models. This is exactly what we're talking about, interrupted Ambassador Kree Tao of the Silicon Hegemony. Human behavior makes no logical sense. How can you do proper science without following proper procedures? We got results, Patricia replied. Simply, the display showed new data about nebula formation that had revolutionized galactic astronomy. Dr. Johnson's direct approach discovered energy patterns that long-range sensors couldn't detect. Dr. Lee's mining equipment found mineral compositions that no one expected. Dr. Garcia's artistic maps revealed structural relationships that mathematical models missed. The council chamber fell silent. The human research team had accomplished more in 6 months than the combined alien scientists had achieved in 15 years. Captain Jack Stevens entered the chamber as Patricia's special guest, now an admiral in charge of human deep space exploration. Jack represented everything that made aliens nervous about humanity. Admiral Stevens, said High Admiral Zektar, your exploration fleet has made contact with 7 new species in the past year. Each contact has resulted in significant changes to established galactic boundaries. Jack nodded. That's right, Admiral. We met the Crystalline Collective, who had been hiding in asteroid fields for centuries because they were afraid of other species. We helped them establish diplomatic relations with the galaxy. How? Asked Ambassador Falcor. We talked to them. Turns out they were scared because every other species they'd met tried to mine them for their crystal bodies. We were the first ones to treat them like people instead of resources. Jack continued, we also made contact with the deep swimmers, an aquatic species that lives in the gas giant atmosphere of the Cerberus system. Previous expeditions had written them off as non-intelligent because they don't use technology. But they are intelligent? Asked Dr. Kethmos. Incredibly intelligent. They've developed mathematics and philosophy that make our greatest thinkers look like children. They just never needed technology because they can manipulate their environment directly through bioelectric fields. Patricia added, "What Admiral Stevens isn't mentioning is that both species have now established permanent embassies with humanity. The Crystalline Collective is sharing their knowledge of mineral sciences with our geologists. The deep swimmers are teaching our philosophers new ways of thinking about consciousness." The pattern was becoming clear to every delegate in the chamber. Wherever humans went, they didn't just explore or trade. They formed relationships that changed everyone involved. Ambassador Valthara sent a mental message to the assembly. The humans are not just unpredictable. They make everything around them unpredictable too. High Admiral Zektar returned. His main point. This is precisely why we need to establish containment protocols. Human influence spreads like a disease, disrupting established order throughout the galaxy. Patricia's expression became serious. "Admiral, with respect, we're not a disease. We're just different. And difference isn't something to be contained. But your difference threatens the stability we've built over thousands of years," Zektar replied. "Maybe stability isn't as important as you think it is." The statement sent shockwaves through the council. Galactic civilization was built on the principle that stability and order were the highest goods. Captain, Jack stepped forward. "Let me tell you what we've learned in our explorations. The galaxy is full of species that have been stuck in the same patterns for centuries. The Vorthok have been military-focused for so long they've forgotten how to create art. The Etherians have been sharing thoughts for so long they've forgotten how to have private dreams. The collective was so unified they never learned to question their own decisions." "These are not problems," protested Ambassador Kretal. "These are the foundations of our civilizations." "Maybe," Jack replied, "but there are also limitations. When the Devourers woke up, your perfect civilizations couldn't adapt fast enough to defeat them. You needed chaos to break the deadlock." Patricia activated a final display showing current galactic maps. "Honorable delegates, I want to show you something. These are the sectors where humans have established colonies or trading posts." The map showed human settlements scattered throughout the galaxy, connected by trade routes and communication networks. Now, this is a map of the same sectors showing scientific breakthroughs, artistic achievements, and diplomatic innovations over the past 5 years. The correlation was undeniable. Every area with human presence showed exponential increases in creativity, discovery, and progress. Dr. Kethmos spoke for the first time during the session. "The data supports what I have long suspected. Humans don't just change themselves. They catalyze change in others. They are evolution in action. Is this good or bad?" asked Ambassador Felkor. "That depends," Dr. Kethmos replied, "on whether you value security more than growth." High Admiral Zektar looked around the chamber at his fellow delegates. "So what do we do? How do we coexist with a species that changes everything they touch?" Patricia smiled. "You could try learning from use instead of fearing us. We're not trying to destroy your civilizations. We're trying to help them grow. And if we refuse?" asked Ambassador Kretal. Jack answered with typical human directness. "Then you'll get left behind. The universe is a big place, and